Welcome, everyone, to the Open Space Land Acquisition and Farmland Preservation Subcommittee meeting for February 24th. We'll call to order, and we'll start with any public comment. None. Approval of minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from January 27th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion, update on Rocky Hill Community Farm.
All right, so last time we had a few questions that you're looking for answers. First of all, really nothing's happened this past month. We have 18 inches of snow out there. But I'll answer the questions that will come up. Regarding registration, they're ready to go when we decided. And checks, yes, they take checks. But you have to come in person and register here. You cannot mail a check in. It has to be in person at the desk downstairs for them to take checks. And third thing regarding the gardens is the raised beds. That's still an issue, getting these things either, funding for them. We just don't have that in place. I was talking to Craig today. He's, trying to figure out how they're going to fund that and make them. He's thinking maybe we wait a year and then the proceeds from the sale of the lots, we take that money and turn it back into the raised beds for next year. Unless we go with the real low ones. That'd be a lot easier. We were trying to get them table height. So that's it on the farm. On the garden itself, we were speaking about porta potties as an alternative. Craig has in his budget for standard and ADA porta potties. They're $70 a month for standard, $100 a month for ADA, and then as a clean out, whenever they come clean out, there's a charge. They do make a flushing model. It's like on a boat where you step on and flush by pumping. No reason to have that. It's $400 a month.
Whoa.
And then the fancies, somebody said, well, what do the fancies cost? $4,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
And you need electricity or generator.
All right.
So that's probably out of anybody's budget there.
I have a question. Could you repeat about this includes the cleanup?
No.
The
Clean
$100
it.
a month?
No, they charge you each time for a clean out, yes.
Do you know what that rate?
I do not know.
We need to know that.
Yeah, so it's not much. It's in Craig's budget. It's for $70 a month. I don't know what they charge because they do the whole town at once. We have porta potties at all the different parks and select other places, so they come and clean them out. Once a week, twice a week, whatever they do. Septic. We're talking septic and holding tanks. Today, Dave and I met with the state DEP regarding both. They're not opposed to a holding tank, but they would like that all other options exhausted, which we've already decided that sanitary sewer is not going to happen at $500,000 to get it 3,000 feet down the road. The septic system, we just can't get a number right now because we don't know what we need because we can't dig test pits and do perk tests. But the question was raised, how much is a septic system? An engineered system is going to be between $30,000 and $50,000. We don't think, just by what we have out there, between ledge and the compaction on the soil and all that, we're going to really have many locations that we can put in the existing ground. So it's going to have to be engineered. We think the best location is actually going to be north of the gardens and east of the barn, where there's two foundations remaining, rubble foundations, and then there's a couple other buildings that were there. They've been removed in that area, but it's like 3 feet of topsoil, so you have to remove, put in the proper sand and all that. And the issue with that is we probably have to pump. So pump, you need an alarm, the pump, maybe, I don't know if you need a backup. It's such small flows. Electricity, of course, for the pumps. Holding tank, they're not opposed because there was a house there previous. There's nothing there now, basically, was what they're saying. But because there was one there previous, and we're the town, we're a government entity versus a private entity, they're not opposed. Holding tank would be somewhere between, best we can gather right now, $2,500 to $5,000. And again, you'd have an alarm on that, so you know when it's getting full. We have some calls into some other communities that do have holding tanks to try and get what their schedules are. I know for standard septic pumping, it's roughly $250, and standard septic you do like every 5 years. But that's because the liquid's going to the field. So I know one community has one at their soccer / little league fields. You know, their privy's basically built over the tank. So we're trying to get that information. We just haven't got the calls back yet, and you can understand that people are a little busy with the snow cleanup. And then the last question was regarding to bring in the water. If we dug ourselves and had the contractor do the work. I talked to a couple, one local here in town that does this kind of work, and they said you save maybe 15%. You know, so if it's a $20,000 bill, it's, it'd probably be like $1,750, $1,500 to $1,750 for them to still do the work. So it's not like you're saving a ton. And then you get into, if we were there, we got to be there when they're there, and that could go into overtime, which I know is also an item that we look at. So it's you got to balance it out. Does it make sense for us to be hanging around waiting for this guy to do his work, or just have him do everything all at once? So
Steve, real quick, for the water pipe, that was from the hydrant to the barn area?
we're assuming, we're still trying to work out with MDC. I've asked for contact names, and no one's given me any yet of who they talked to about doing this. They would install another tap and a shut-off with the proper size
Well, they
water
have a
main.
list of contractors that they deal
Oh,
with.
yeah. No, we talked to some of them and got the prices, but what I'm saying is they build that into their costs, all the excavation and everything, so if you remove it, they're not gonna discount it that much. But we're assuming that it's gonna be from the shut-off to the building and beyond to get water to the fields.
Okay.
But we're, we still gotta settle this line that they put in incorrectly. They were given wrong data, I guess, of what we needed.
And just real quick, going back to the raised beds,
Yep.
you said the apps are available are available to the public, or
Apps?
the applications?
Not for the raise, but right now, the application, I think we said March.
First, I
Okay.
thought, March 1st.
March, it was gonna open up, and Craig says whatever date that was, he's ready to hit, live or whatever they gotta do on their program, and they're ready to go. So,
Okay, thanks.
I have to go back in notes and look at that.
Going back to the raised beds, have we, and I don't know who would do it, approached a company or something to maybe give a gentle donation with a signage or, free advertising or something?
Well, we do have some money in I forgot the name of it, but it's in the budget,
Yeah,
the land
I'm not familiar with this, but you are, and Ray is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some money in there, but how much do you think it would be?
I don't think, the money that you said we had last time would more than cover it. It's
No,
just,
how much would the beds be?
yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think the money that was in that account will more than cover the beds. It's just, I'm not familiar with that. Craig's working on this, so I'll get with him tomorrow.
And then, to your point, the money received for people to have it I agree, should go to
Should go
next
back
year.
in.
Yeah.
It should be
Actually, it
self-sustaining.
should go back into that budget account, yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be to the general fund.
Right.
I think it should be
Right.
self-sustaining personally.
Brian? Also?
I believe we should be digging that ourselves for our town. Saving 15%, you're saying it's around 17,000.
No, that's not what we'd save. That we'd save $2,500 to $5,000 is what we'd save. A $20,000 bill, we'd be saving 15% of that maybe.
Whatever it is.
But yeah, so that'd be
that's
what?
that's our
That'd be
money.
$4,000. That'd be $4,000.
Whatever it is.
So, yeah,
that's
so-
still something that's a savings for our taxpayers
Yep.
to save
So-
on. So
So,
if we have our town crew guys available, then
yep.
we should be digging that.
So, and I talked to Joe, and he's more than willing to do it.
Okay,
So,
good. Excellent. Thank
So.
you.
I have a follow-up question for the
Yeah.
septic. You said an engineered system is 30 to 50K, and you think that's the only option we would have, or
For
there-
septic,
Yes.
yes. I don't think those soils are gonna be conducive.
Yeah.
Because stuff was buried, disturbed, compacted, driven over, full of grease, oil, who knows what. You're gonna have to get the correct
I think we should
material
just
in
stick
there.
with porta potties for a couple of years until things settle in with
It's an option.
with the beds. And
It
make sure-
just, you can't use the barn
Right.
We could have the holding tank.
unless we get the holding tank. And the holding tank, relatively speaking, is way cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to pump it. And like I said, we're trying to get some information from other towns that we know have them,
Okay.
and just no phone calls back yet.
question to the chair. Why can't we use the barn? I mean, if we have porta potties.
Because for building permit, it's considered like a educational.
Have to have indoor plumbing?
That's that the plumbing, the heat. You know, it has that, like the exit lights over the door. You know, right now there's no electricity, so those aren't working. So all that has to be in place.
Some solar, something rigged up. Could we-
Yeah, well, we have the electric's not going to be the issue. We already have a meter on the building. It's ready. It's just we can't dig in the ground right now, but that's ready to go. It's the water part and the sewage part is the biggest issue. So.
And any of the previous work that was done out there for the barn, there isn't any geotechnical data or anything?
Not in those locations. Most of it is where the contamination and the rehab was. There's like one or two outside of that you know we can gauge from, but not enough.
Okay.
You all set?
I'm good.
Just one final question. The trails. Any update on the trails?
For here,
Yeah,
none.
none?
None. Right now, the manager at all do not want to do anything with trails there until we get everything else up and running. And
Do you want to tackle that in like April, May, when starts getting warmed up?
we're trying to be considerate to the folks who lease the property out there. You know, we don't want to be disturbing going through their fields either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought like the town manager wanted then phases.
yeah, he doesn't want to do this for at least another year.
Then work on
Yeah.
those trails.
Not even this year. We're not even, he doesn't want to talk about this year.
Right.
Do we have any sort of preliminary trail?
No,
Nothing.
nothing was ever done with that.
Okay.
It was just
Well, we did with the Manusis, with that Yukon people. They actually roughed some trail designs in.
I have not seen that.
Don't
And,
remember that?
and Ed created some maps too.
Ed's
Yeah,
done
Ed's
something,
too.
yeah, but, you know, his could be
California
where
too.
we don't want him. You know, so,
Might be good just to start kind of looking
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we need to really, move forward with it, but just some thoughts, process into it. I'd like to look at it.
Okay, all right. The next big thing, discussion possible action, PA 490 assessor. Stuart, thank you very much for joining from Florida.
Oh, you're welcome. I would much rather be home. I'm one of those people that had their flight canceled 3 or 4 times.
wow.
Oh,
So I was supposed to be coming home Sunday night. I won't get home till really late tomorrow.
oh
So-
man, it's a long delay.
Yeah. And it hasn't been Florida weather either, so.
No, I heard
we're,
it's been
you know,
cold there.
You know, and it's like, gee, if I'm gonna be here, it might as well be Florida weather.
Right?
So.
So Stuart, I think what we're looking for is, since this became news, starting like 4 months ago, with the PA 490 program, not too many people are familiar with the details. They fill out the application and that's it. But some things have come across with regards to the survey that was done by UConn, and it was kind of skewed data. They still released it. We know the governor revoked those and went back to the 2020 values. But I think what we're looking for, and you guys can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, is a basic overview from your standpoint of PA 490, how it impacts Rocky Hill, and maybe some of your thoughts on ways to improve the communication. Because I can say personally, I don't recall receiving the survey, and I've been managing 490 land for a while. And I may have received it, but the way they did it was a postcard, and it may have looked like a marketing thing, and I chucked it. So I think we'll get into that, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, and we have some farmers here too that would like to hear it.
Well, I have the PowerPoint slides. I don't know if you received them in your packets. If I can't see your side, I have the presentation I can go through.
Yeah.
NOAG did send out, or UConn sent out the survey. Me as the assessor received it. But I don't know how widespread it was, because after they sent it to us and we gave them the information like I had, then they said, oh, well, we didn't want the information from you. And I'm like, okay, well, I gave you what I had. Yeah, I don't,
No slides.
but
He's got him online.
I find that they don't communicate very well downward as opposed to in their own sections.
Okay.
Would you like me to do my presentation?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure. Let me just get there. I'm beginning.
Wanna share this? Or you can see
Oh,
it
okay,
there.
I can see.
Can you see it?
We
I
can,
was just looking at the page.
Okay, so I have to move my little block. The purpose and intent of PA 490 is to preserve farmland, forest land, open space, and now, a few years ago, they created the Maritime Heritage Land. And the purpose of it is to prevent a more intensive use. And then to prevent the forced conversion of farm and forest land into, again, more intensive use, subdivisions, commercial, whatever, by doing the studies and valuing land based on the use, not on the highest and best use. And then the farmland defined under 1-1Q is, it means any tract or tracts of land, including woodland, wasteland, and any underwater farmlands used for aquaculture, constituting a farm unit. And then forest land means any tracts or tracts of land aggregating 25 acres or more in area, bearing tree growth that conforms to the forest stocking distribution condition standards established by the state forester. And a couple of years ago, the state of Connecticut passed legislation that says if you have forest land now, you have to get a state forester to say that it's actually a forest. And then here are the type of farmland class types. You know, you have tillable A, tillable B, tillable C. The majority of the farmland we have here in Rocky Hill, you know, the farmers have their opinions. I have mine. Most of it's tillable C. You have some tillable D. We have pasture, and then we have some swamp ledge and scrubland. We have some woodland forest, all part of the farm unit. We have some tillable A there. We have some tillable B, but we're Rocky Hill. It's Rocky Hill for a reason, and you go down a few inches, and you're hitting some rock. So to go and to stay in line with the intent of PA 490, unless the farmer's telling me it's tillable A or B, it's tillable C or D. And to illustrate that, when I first came to Rocky Hill in 2005, the majority of our farmland was classified as tillable A. And over the years, I've reclassified it, or the farmers reclassified it as land that is less than tillable A or B, either C or D. So,
Stuart, quick question. So for
Sure.
the meadows and the farmers that are down there, I think a lot of them that I've seen are tillable C. There's some swamp. But when the meadows floods and they lose their crops, or they can't go in there for, a month and a half at a time or whatever, wouldn't that be, couldn't you have that as tillable D?
Under the definitions here, I don't know if it fits, but I don't necessarily oppose it, it's probably tillable C because the individual classifying it said it was, as farmland said it was tillable C. So if a farmer tells me that their land is tillable C or tillable D, I'm generally not questioning them because, the farmer knows farmland probably more than I know farmland.
Okay.
It does
No.
say that D has some considerable slope, so if it's flooding and it's flat, then it might not fit that. I'm
But
not a
it's
farmer
still,
by any
but it's
means.
still cropland.
And I don't, if this year, every farmer in the meadows, came in and said it was something different, I'm generally not arguing with them. But also, when I first started, I will argue that most of the land in the meadows was being farmed for a long time, but not all of it was classified because the farmers didn't necessarily own those pieces. So I aggressively sought out the owners to reach out to the local farmer that owned the land adjacent to them to get them to classify it as PA 490.
Okay.
So you have the Hayes Farm, you have Fairweather Growers, what else? You have the Gilberts down there, you have the Harrises, and then you have the Turf Farm. They take up the majority of the land and they're farming it, but they're not all the owners down there.
Is it easy for you to have a database of, let's say you just wanted to communicate with the landowners in the meadows? Do you have a database that could send out like a letter or something to the owners if you wanted to? Or would you have to look at every property card?
I can do a report and then sort by address and eliminate the ones that are not in the meadows, and then I can do a database that way. I don't have a database that's just farmers.
And the only reason
Any information that I have can be FOI'd and then used. So I try not to keep a lot of lists of people and owners and addresses because it only takes a few minutes to do it. But once I create it, I have to keep it and then make it available. And people are constantly asking us for data to solicit marketing to them.
Right. I mean, the only reason I'm asking is I know the responsibility is on the property owner to apply for 490. But I've noticed that there's some plots in the meadows that are being assessed as residential, primarily the Fish and Game.
Oh.
And just to my point, that they have to apply for it, right?
They would need to, and I believe all their land is in PA 490.
No, I mean, I went through,
I'll have to.
yeah, I went through a bunch of
Okay,
them.
yeah, I'll have to take a look.
Okay, all right.
I'll go. It might be just something on my card that's just not displaying properly.
Got it. Okay.
Because I think they do a lot of corn, and it's so they can, the Fish and Game Club does hunting down there.
Okay.
So
John, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that if the town of Rocky Hill, if the assessor sent any PA 490 information to the town clerk's office, and I don't know if you want to call it a database, but anybody that wants information on who has 490 land, that it goes to the town clerk, maybe set up a separate folder, whatever, within the town clerk, so that when UConn comes and wants information for doing assessments or revals in the future, they can go to the town clerk's office, basically in 169 towns, and there's all your PA 490 information with everybody's addresses, and,
Survey,
and then we get the survey, and we don't have to run into this problem again.
right. Yeah, I agree.
And I'm thinking that if it's all laid out within our town clerk's office, problem solved.
I think. we
Okay,
need-
just so you're aware, by November 30th annually, the assessor has to file a report with the town clerk of all the land that is classified in the town of Rocky Hill. We don't necessarily put the addresses of the owners on it, but it's identified by the owner and address of the property. If the state of Connecticut or Yukon or whoever ever asked me for a list of our farmers in town and the land and all that, I would have happily given it to them. But they did not request it from us. Most of the land, when it comes to farmland in Rocky Hill, the majority of the land is leased for $1. So when it comes to the value of the farmland in Rocky Hill, I know Fairweather growers, when they lease land, that they actually negotiate a lease with the owner. The majority of the rest of the farmland in Rocky Hill is leased for $1 a year, so that the owner of the property receives the benefit of PA 490, and the farmer benefits because they get to use the land at essentially no cost. So if I responded to, which I responded to Yukon survey, but the majority of my response when it came to the leases on PA 490 was that it was $1 an acre, regardless of what classification it was. So,
Okay.
but we cooperate with any agency on, DOAG, OPM, Yukon, those such people that would ask for the information. We cooperate with them.
John, can you just back up for a second for the public? Can you explain what you mean by the survey that didn't get distributed?
Every 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah, Stuart can
Okay.
explain. It's sort of
Yeah,
separate.
it was an online survey, and it was done a couple of years ago, and by myself, and then I don't remember the questions that were on it, but what the feedback we got from OPM and was, thank you, but no thank you. And it's like, okay, I don't know.
The survey that we're
I don't
talking
know what-
about came from the state, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Department
the
of
issue is
Policy.
what did this survey was supposed to tell us what? Like what was it supposed to do for the farmers?
Well, hindsight now that we're talking about it, it was for them to base the updated values on. But when they sent it out, they didn't tell us what it was for. They were just doing a survey on farmland.
But it was
And I was like,
ultimately
okay.
used to determine the updated values that come every 5 years or whatever.
Well, yeah, again, hindsight, yes, that's what it was used for.
But no one knew that.
And we as an association, we talked about this and we're like, we don't understand what it's for.
Okay.
And they didn't elaborate.
And so so when that's done, when that revaluation is done, then state assessors can use that as a reference when that each town does their revaluation. If they don't want to use that reval from DOAG, then, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong, each town would have to go through an independent type of study or something?
Yes, we would have to do our own
what it's.
valuation study on the value of farmland in our jurisdiction.
Okay.
And unfortunately for us in Rocky Hill, we don't, farmland doesn't really trade, or sell as farmland. It usually sells as something outside of PA 490. And then we have the meadows, and the only thing that you can use the meadows for if you're not farming is enjoying it.
Yeah, conservation, recreation, right.
It's got to be passive recreation. You can't build anything. So, when it came to valuing the farmland, and it was tillable A all those years ago, I said the usability of this land is not tillable A, even though it's very fertile soil. The flooding, was an issue. So.
And to jump in, the tillable A for everyone, I'm sure you guys know, but the tillable A is the highest evaluation of any of the types of PA 490 land use. So if if the farms aren't actually tillable A, then they should be paying less, right?
It was mainly set up
Right.
for tobacco.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it's those tobacco fields in Bloomfield and Windsor and East Windsor and South Windsor. All those, they're in the floodplain, but they're also very large tracts of land that made it very profitable to do that.
Gotcha.
Are you aware that, the state sets a recommendation, and we don't have to follow that? The town of Cromwell, prior to the governor rescinding the new updated amounts, the town manager, the assessor, and the mayor said they were not going to accept it prior to the governor rescinding it. So they weren't going to accept the new dollar amounts. Is that something that we have an option of doing also?
Well, because we haven't had revaluation, and ours is right now not due to 2028, our values won't change until the next revaluation.
But do we have to accept the state's values? Can we just say we're going to revert back to the 2020 values?
I don't know if that's within the statutes to do so, but in the statute it says if we don't accept the state's value, we have to do our own study to say what they are. I haven't looked up what the criteria is for the study, but I imagine that
Tells you in here.
we could perform a study that would determine what the values would be in Rocky Hill.
The methodology is spelled right out in the manual, in the Public Act 490 manual.
Yeah, it says it in here, what would need to happen.
So either we abide by the state's methodology and go through Office of Policy and Management, and then have the Department of Agriculture, and who else is in there? UConn is to pass out the surveys. Farm Credit East is involved as they give their rates. And what,
That was the past one. So as of the last task force that happened, the governor had revoked the 2025 values.
Correct.
To go back to 2020.
Correct.
Except forestry, I think, and they were pretty upset. Cromwell, the assessor was going to implement the 2025 values.
correct,
Until the town manager stepped in and
Correct.
said, no, you gotta use 2020 because the governor revoked it, 2025.
Oh, that wasn't. I thought it
And
was
my,
prior.
yeah. And my question at the task force was, how long is the governor's revoking this gonna last? And they said indefinitely. And that's why the task force is in place, to create a new process to value, not change PA 490, but the way the data is collected. Because people complain that the card it came on, a little postcard with a QR code, most, I mean, especially the older farmers, they don't know how to do a QR code.
Correct,
So it should have been kind of like the older way.
correct.
And part of the survey retrieval of data with people was they didn't receive a good response initially. Then they had to go back to the 2020 list of emails, send it out. And I think they even went back to 2015 to see what emails they had for farmers to send out the survey. So, I think everybody acknowledges that the whole process was kind of in flux.
And right here, once again, in the Public Act 490 manual, Appendix C, you have the survey right here in the book. Make a copy of it, go back to snail mail. Not everybody knows how to use a computer. We can all drive tractors, but some of us aren't technologically savvy. So I'm thinking there has to be many ways and many forms of this to get out to the ag community for them to fill this out. If you want to email it, great. If you want to use snail mail, great, because it's got to get out there, and this has to be filled out correctly. And this is why I'm thinking if this information is right here in Rocky Hill, and all this 490 material is here, moving forward, when it comes time to do this survey and doing the revals, we can go to each and every single town in Connecticut, right here in the town halls, and have that information available. So if Stuart goes ahead and makes his own recommendations, you still have to use a methodology.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'd suggest let's go through the PowerPoint, then we'll have
Okay.
follow-up questions, Stuart.
All right, the farmland factors to consider: acreage, although there's no minimum to include under farm buildings. The land under farm buildings would be classified as the land that is classified for the farm. Portion actually used as the farm, so what you're actually using in farming and productivity of the land. It doesn't have to be the maximum productivity. The farmer gets to choose what crop they are going to plant and harvest. There's no income limit or minimum income. So, the most important thing about farming is not how much you make. It's about actually, using it as a farm. And then the nature and value of the equipment doesn't matter because with farm operations, the value of the equipment varies greatly based on what you're actually farming. And then the most important thing is it has to remain in farmland for 10 years from ownership. With
Otherwise,
forest
you're
land-
paying a recapture fee.
Right.
Right, I'll get to that. The forest land, it's a one tract of land, 25 acres or more, contiguous acres, which may be in contiguous municipalities, or it's two or more tracts of land aggregating 25 acres or more, with no single component tract of less than 10 acres. And any tract of land that is contiguous to a tract owned by the same owner and has been classified as forest land. And it must be certified as by the state forester that says it's forest land. And this past year, the property, the 25 acres across the street from the farm, at the corner of New Road and New Britain Avenue, that was classified as forest land by the state forester this past fall. It's 25.3 acres or something like that. And it must remain forest land for a minimum of 10 acres from classification, not ownership.
10 years.
Yep. Sorry if I didn't say 10 years, I meant to say 10 years. Must file the M39 application for PA 490, and it has to be filed September 1st through October 31st. Unless it's a revaluation year, then you have till December 30th. And then here are the values.
Could you just
that are,
explain, sorry to interrupt, just explain what an M39 is for people?
It's the farmland application that comes from, it's in the farm book, but it's OPM's form that says it's the application for PA 490.
Thank you.
And there are the statewide values. I don't know why the state includes us in the river valley, because, I'm sure they do because of the meadows.
Yes.
But the majority of, Rocky Hill is uplands. It's up above, significantly above, the meadows. So I think a lot of our farmland in Rocky Hill is unfairly treated. But because we're classified as a river valley town, I have to use the river valley values. And as you can see, there's a significant value difference between tillable D and tillable A, and even for the most part tillable C. Here's if you declassify or you change of use or sell the property for farmland within the first 10 years of ownership. It's a conveyance tax penalty. In the first year, it's 10 years, and in the last year, at year 10, it's 1%. And it goes along with forest land. It's the same schedule, but that goes with classification, not ownership. So if a farmer has owned the land for 30 years, and then today he puts it in PA 490, there's no restriction for him to sell it next year because he's owned it more than 10 years. But if you classify your land as forest land, you have to wait the 10 years. All right. Here are the list of exempt transfers. So eminent domain, mortgage deeds to the United States government of the state of Connecticut, strawman's deed or to correct or modify, deed between spouses, parent, or children.
Did he freeze?
Every time the technology never fails.
Transfers from family to family, and it keeps getting passed down. And here are the exemptions we have. 1291 exempts the first $100,000 in farm machinery, and then the town council has passed the 2 local options. The first one, farm machinery, up to $250,000, and then farm buildings up to $100,000. So now they have a total exemption eligibility of $450,000, and it's provided that they meet the gross sales income or of $15,000 or $15,000 expended in the farm operation. We still have the local option for dairy farms up to 50% of their property taxes being abated, but we do not have a dairy farm anymore. I believe the Back Hills stopped being a dairy farm quite a few years ago. And then we exempt horses and ponies.
So that's something I think we're going to be talking about too, Stuart, is I know the state raised that last October, but increasing on the town side to 500 each. But that's something we can talk about.
Okay. Well, and then here are the number of properties that we have classified in each category. So farmland, 173. forest land, we have 3. Open space, we have 17, so we're 193 parcels. Then the exemptions, the 1291, we have 8. We have 4 with the machinery of $250,000, and we have 7 that are receiving the $100,000 on the buildings. And there are 8 farms that are eligible for the local options. So some of the farmers, all their buildings are exempt. I think there's one that still has a little bit of value left in their farm buildings. The rest, I believe, are fully exempt. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions? Bill, and if you guys have questions, feel free to come up. If you need clarification on anything, I just want to make sure that while we have Stuart here and we need clarification on 490 or any questions that you have the opportunity to come up. It wasn't just for public comment before.
Well, if anybody has questions, please contact me. I'm in the office. They can stop by, they can call me, they can email me. Happy to answer any questions even outside of this if they're not comfortable, asking in a meeting setting.
Stuart, one question I have for you is, with this 490 task force on the state level, what can we bring up that would help you manage this process?
First, I would say keep us in the loop. Let us know what their end game is before they start, because a lot of times we can help them with the questions to ask before they're asking them. Second, a lot of sometimes, like for me, the application period starts September 1st, and that's after the growing season, right? And I know the law says, it starts on September 1st, but I've always encouraged people applying for PA 490 to apply well before that, so then I can actually go out and look to see what they're actually doing throughout the whole year, as opposed to seeing and speculating what they did at the end of the year. I think, the new law out there now says that if you don't agree with the assessor's determination if you have PA 490 or not, then you can appeal the DOAG. Right. And then they get to determine whether we have farmland or not. And there's some assessors out there that basically said, well, you can just go out and they're just sending them to DOAG to make the determination. I just think communication needs to be more transparent from OPM and DOAG to the town level.
So with regards to the survey, if they agree that it should be the responsibility of the town assessor to mail out the survey on their behalf, is that something that you would object to?
I would not object to that. It would probably make sense because the farmers that are receiving PA 490, I have, and it's a handful, maybe 2 handfuls. Whereas if you're trying to get somebody outside of us, at the state level, and what other towns might have a problem with that, because if they have a lot of farmland, a lot of different farmers, but I don't think that'll be an issue, because if you go to East Windsor, there's only a couple families that own all the land. That's in PA 490. And every town's kind of like that. The quantity of farmland, I don't think is the big deal. I think but we are the ones that know who the farmers are. And it wouldn't be an issue for us they just got to communicate it to us that that's what they need us to do. And I don't think you'll get a lot of pushback from our side of the house. Because people don't believe this, but all we care about is whether everybody gets traded equally. And when there's inequity in what we do, it causes issues. And if we're the ones that know who the farmers are, we're probably the ones that are better off getting that information to them. But the receiver of the information has to be them. So I'd be happy to send it out, but it would have to be returned to them.
Right.
If you could guesstimate how many landowners in Rocky Hill have PA 490, how many do you think? Like, if you had to send out a survey tomorrow, how many would you be sending out, do you think?
8 or 9.
But that's not accurate, because a lot of us use people's land that
Right, but
are in 490,
farmer-
but not the farmer.
right, but the majority of the PA 490 land that's not owned by the farmer, for the most part, is
Correct.
rented for $1.
Right.
So
but-
that random person that's leasing their land to the farmer to farm, I don't know if they're gonna.
It would be the landowner
Right.
that fills out the survey
Correct.
and puts down the lease rate. And that's that's another thing that went wrong with
And-
this PA 490 was
Well, we
that
have.
the return was so minimal that the lease amounts skewed the numbers.
Yeah, so there's no market, there's not a lot, I know Fairweather Growers, he does his best to have a market rent on all the property he farms, that he leases. But the majority of the landowners out there don't have an arm's length lease on their land. It's I'm gonna get the tax benefit and I'm gonna charge you $1 a year.
How would that work with the community farm? You have 3 farmers there paying lease.
Who's the landowner?
Who's the landowner?
On Rocky Hill?
We would have to take
The town of Rocky Hill is the
I mean,
landowner.
Does the town fill out a survey?
Most.
That's what. they're-
That I don't know. The town property is exempt.
Got it, okay. Okay,
I have a
For
random
valuation purposes, I haven't removed the PA 490 classification, but the land at the farm is now 100% exempt. So I don't know what the lease rates are on that property. But the land's exempt, and I'm not tracking it because the town doesn't have to fill out a farmland application.
Interesting. So back in 2019, this probably wasn't even on the radar, but, and I don't know how it would relate to this, but they don't really speak to like services of farmland. For example, agrivoltaic type of thing. How's that handled on PA? Does that exempt you? Does that take you out of this type of classification of being PA 490? Do you know?
I'm not sure what
Putting solar
solar
on farmland.
panel?
Solar
Yep,
farms.
mhm.
Well,
But
if you
still
have solar
having-
panel,
But still farming, but still it could be goats, it could be still doing a crop underneath it. So it's a we don't really have it in Rocky Hill, so I'm sure you don't have experience, but I was just curious if you've heard any talk.
well, if you're gonna ask me, and if someone did it in Rocky Hill, and if you don't have the panels high enough to do farming activity underneath it, then you're not preserving it from a more intensive use. So then, therefore, I would deny your PA 490.
Yeah, in
Because
field, I went to
you're not,
one that does goats.
you're not,
They've kept their
Yeah, they're
farm
eating the
land
grass.
status.
I've heard herbs and such can grow under them, so.
Exactly.
It doesn't always have to be a 8-foot panel. But I know we're getting off track
We
here,
are
'cause
getting
this
off
is-
track, never
This
mind.
is future land.
Yeah,
but you also gotta remember it's to prevent a more intensive use. And I
Remains to
think
be
solar
seen.
panels don't
Remains to be seen, doesn't it?
present,
yeah.
well, hopefully I don't have to answer that question in Rocky Hill.
Stuart, do you get questions from residents that are on just a couple of acres and they want to have a couple of chickens and they want their couple of acres to be under 490?
I was curious about that too.
I have not gotten a question on chickens. Or,
It does say that having chickens can, and there's no size limit, so you could do
Well,
that.
there's some
there is
people that-
not. I would go to, I'd go, it's preponderance of the evidence, right? Are you a chicken farmer? Okay, all right, now, if you have chickens for your own consumption, that's not a farm. If you're selling the
You
eggs,
have to sell them.
whether you make a profit or not is not material. It's whether you're buying, you're raising them and selling them, or you're slaughtering the chickens and selling the chickens. But somewhere in there, you're gonna have like a Schedule F or something like that that says you're doing this commercially, and and then it'll come down to, okay, how much acres you actually using with your chickens? Are they free range chickens? So, okay, you could be using that 2 acres of land. But
And-
most of them are in some kind of coop and in a confined space, so.
But if there's a house
I have
on
not
that 2
gotten that
acres, that would
question.
preclude you, right? We wouldn't,
The house wouldn't be part of 490. It
That's
would be
right.
The acreage around it.
okay, so you
And
can
there-
take one parcel and exclude the piece that has the house, and the rest could go.
That's right.
There is a 15,000, the farmer must produce $15,000 worth of
Sales.
agricultural commodities in order to be,
A lot of eggs.
yes.
In order to get
applicable
the
for
exemption.
490.
But no, only for the exemption of farm equipment and buildings. Machinery, equipment, and buildings.
I don't know
But
about
if
that,
to be
Stuart.
classi-
I think it's
But to
in the
be classified as
manual.
PA 490, there is no minimum income. There is no minimum income for classification, just the exemption.
I think there is, and
I
I
think there
think
was
the
a-
magic
could
number
have-
is $15,000.
And 15,000 expended.
One or the other.
Or,
Yes.
or,
either-
but that's for the exemption.
Yes,
That's a lot of
correct.
picking fingers.
For the exemption, not for classification.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Yeah, eligibility requirements for machinery and building exemptions, 15,000 in gross sales or
right.
15,000 in farm-related expenses.
Right, that's for the exemption, not for classification, because if you go back to my earlier sheet, it says there's no minimum income.
Right. Stuart, if
That's
we.
in the farm book.
Down the road, when we start discussing bumping up that ordinance, the town ordinance for machinery and buildings, could you remember you did that financial exercise for the veterans, the tax? Could you do the same thing for the buildings and machinery if it went up to
Absolutely.
500 apiece?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
But just so you know, the spread between the 250 and the 500,000, it's one farmer, and it's not a lot.
Okay, yeah, the whole thing would be negligible, I'm sure.
Yeah.
At this point, you've exempted all but one farmer.
Right. But
So
I just want to,
if you went to 500, it would exempt the rest of his farm building.
I'm thinking of the future too.
Yep.
With not only the current farmers, but the next generation or people that buy that farm,
Sure.
that the exemption is
And
there.
as values of buildings and stuff go up, yeah, I
Right,
fully understand.
right, okay.
Doesn't
I
that
can do- I
have
can
to
do-
go through the legislative, like the town council?
Oh, it
To,
would, yeah.
for,
It's
yeah,
it's gonna be a
an
new
ordinance?
The
Okay.
the current, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, the state raised, last October, they raised the minimum up to 200 and 250.
250.
Yep. But the town
Yep.
only increased it an extra 100, totaling 200. So what, either way, we're abiding by the 250.
Right.
So it would be a new ordinance bumping it up to 500. Public hearing.
Well, if you
council
moved it to 500, then it would just increase the limit to the 500.
Right. Along those lines, do you consider a hoop greenhouse a farm building?
Sure.
Okay.
But
If it's being used for agricultural purposes.
If it's not being used as storage, it's being used for active agricultural use.
Well, if you're a farmer, you're using it for storage. It could be a farm building as well if it's farm equipment in there.
But
The
the
use
farmer would get exempt if they filled out the building.
If they meet the criteria for the exemption and they filled out the form that requests an exemption on it, yes, they
You
would
would
get the
grant that.
exemption.
You would grant that, correct?
Yeah, anybody who applied for exemption this year, I didn't deny anybody except for if it went above the limit.
Thank you.
So,
Okay. Any questions? Lisa, you all set?
I think I'm good.
Sandy, all set?
Thank you.
All right, Stuart, thank you very much. This
Thanks
was
for your
very
time.
informative,
Thank you,
and
Stuart.
you're welcome.
we'll be reaching out when we need something else.
Okay, just let me know. I'll be happy to help.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck at the airport, Stuart.
Thanks. Gonna need every bit of it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Executive session, we don't have anything, so
Yeah, I've been informed by the manager that the item that we discussed, we're not quite ready on. There's nothing to update.
I'm just thinking, should we table it or just remove it?
I think you didn't open it, so you don't need to table
Yeah.
it. So
That's right,
just
too.
remove it.
Yeah, okay. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.